Okay, I suppose we are good to start. It's 2 o'clock. So good afternoon, all. Good afternoon to all the participants of the official launch of the Regional Network of Women in STEM. On behalf of the RCC's team, but also on behalf of the UNDP's team, we kindly welcome you to this quite important event for us. I must say, myself and other team members are quite excited for this. It's been a quite long way for us to get to this important milestone. We hope this is going to be the beginning of quite important events that will envelop in the forthcoming months and years. But this is just the start. So without further ado, please let me introduce myself. My name is Siniša Marčić. I'm an expert on human capital development with the Regional Cooperation Council. And today we are joined by a very respectable team of panelists, respectable speakers, individuals from STEM fields, but also very important people for us, the heads of Regional Cooperation Council, Ms. Melinda Bregu. Melinda, good afternoon and welcome. We are also here joined by, good afternoon, thank you, by Mirjana Špoljarić-Eger, head of regional division of, it's a long name, so let me just read it just to make sure that I don't miss something. UN Assistant Secretary General and Regional Director of UNDP's Regional Bureau for Europe and the Commonwealth of Independent States. Mirjana, also a kind welcome to you too. I suppose you are in New York right now. It's quite early for you. Also, we are joined by Maria Aristesca, the head of our expert team. We hired last year to produce a study on mapping of all gender-related, in particular STEM-related initiatives in the Western Balkans. Maria, good afternoon and welcome. And last but not least, members of the panel we are going to talk to today. So in alphabetical order, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Hatice Bilbashi from Albania. From Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have Ms. Azra Saric. Good afternoon and welcome to both of you. From Kosovo, we have Zana Tabaku, Zoja Kukic from Serbia, and I missed, Radenka Krsmanović-Wifen from Montenegro. Unfortunately, today we had a slight issue with our planned sixth panelist, Ms. Sonja Filipovska, who had to cancel. Unfortunately, she does not feel well. I'm quite sorry to hear that, and I hope that Sonja will get much better very soon, and will be able to join our future activities of the network. So on behalf of both RCC and UNDP, Sonja, we wish you a very quick recovery. Without further ado, let me give you Secretary General Melinda Bregu, who is going to address you and say a few words about the overall idea of women economic empowerment agenda that we partnered with the UNDP, but also our plans as the Regional Cooperation Council with regards to the network of STEM, women in STEM. Melinda, the floor is yours, please.
Siniša, thank you very much. And I'm really happy to welcome all of you today. And I'm pretty happy as well to have a panel, let's say, mostly composed of women. It's great that after, let's say, I have to say, if I have to go back, that it's great we are together to launch this regional network of women in STEM today, but a lot of hard work stands on the background, and we know that whenever we try to support strongly the women participation in the labor market and to find new and innovative ideas, to bring them in. It's not that all passes quite smoothly. Just today, while trying to get some of the latest figures in the Western Balkans, again, we started to brainstorm with some shocking figures and alarming ones, that 763,000 women are registered as unemployed in the region right now. And there are, for men, so in the labor market, there are 1 million more men than women working in the Western Balkans. So I do hope and look forward that these ideas, well, of building up and having ready a network of women in STEM could really work in that regard. We will be ready to launch the Balkan Barometer of this year. Actually, there are 2 editions of Balkan Barometer this year, one on security, the first one ever, and the other one, the usual one that we confront, where we confront the perceptions of the countries each year. Again, this time it's quite shocking to read then in the region. Let's say the business community and the business owners are ready and would prefer 4 times more to hire men than women. I wouldn't really get this as an alarming figure of prejudices existing everywhere, but because of the situation in the region. So still women are seen as mostly working in the services or taking care at home, while men as well are more preferable to work outside home. On the as I mentioned, the Observatory on Employment in the Western Balkans portrays this shocking picture of men outnumbering women in the region's labor force. Now, we truly believe that this initiative on empowering young women enter STEM education and careers comes, we used to say, at a timely moment, but I think that a lot of timely moments are passing by. So this is a moment, a peak of a crisis. And considering the situation in the region with all the economic difficulties that the entire Western Balkans is facing with COVID-19 crisis, this is not only a crucial moment, but it can be and work as a tipping point if definitely all the mindset will be that we need both men and women working in order to go for full recovery of our economies. It is as well a part of a broader efforts of cooperation of the RCC and UNDP on advancing women economic empowerment agenda in the region to lower as much as we can the Western Balkans 6 gender unemployment gap. Now, this platform, it is perceived and conceived as a regional platform to encourage open discussions about the key challenges women and girls face in STEM education and careers. RCC study on the region's gender disparity in STEM conducted last year showed that the gender pay gap is consistent, is quite, let's say, pertinent in each Western Balkans economy, and it's especially big in the professions that are considered male traditional professions, such as technology, computer, and science. I think that this situation was not helped by the fact that, at least in the last 10 years, our education system in the Western Balkans 6 was like having or promoting unintentionally, but promoting unhealthy gender disparities. So more women and young women and girls were kind of, if not advised, but helped and oriented through those social sciences where there is less potential to find a job in the region, and male and boys oriented mostly in tech, in IT, and that's why there is this discrepancy in the numbers of those employed and women and men employed in the region. The study identified several challenges that women in STEM fields feel. Two of those are extremely important. On average, there are more young women STEM students and graduates in the Western Balkans than in the EU countries, but the share of women in STEM education is much lower compared to the other fields. As an illustration, between 70 and 85% of graduates are women in health, less than 40% in agriculture, but only between 20% and 30% are in engineering. On top of that, employment rates of well-educated women are higher than the ones of men. But despite that, STEM fields tend to perpetuate inflexible, exclusionary, male-dominated cultures. And on that regard, it's quite hard and difficult for us as well to identify women role models in STEM. But I'm glad that today's panel and many other network members will feature outstanding women in STEM who succeeded despite all odds and branded themselves into the regional champions. And I really personally feel very much motivated, and I would really like to see women like those we met, like Zoya that we met on the 8th of March, for example, or the bright women that we met even before that, while we were having the We campaign, that have been bringing in innovative ideas in not only in STEM, but even in this innovative ideas in technology and education. We aim to identify more successful women in STEM fields whose professional lives will send a message to all young women in the region that you can do that. If you'd like to find a job, there are better chances that you can find a job in the labor market if you have these skills, rather than trying to find a job in any private company or business if you have a diploma in general law or international affairs, as usually it happens. You know that, and this is not a new thing anymore, that we launched the We campaign, Listen to Women, almost 2 years ago. We promoted remarkable women from around the region who keep pursuing their goals and passions despite the social obstacles and the dominant male cultures. Their stories are truly inspiring, as many stories of women passionate about engineering, technology, and math. By launching this regional network of women in STEM, we do not want to lament about difficulties women face or play again and enhance the victimization role, but we would like to explore numerous opportunities for women to move ahead through STEM. The demand of STEM jobs will continue to expand in the future alongside the employment opportunities for engineers and IT specialists. And I am confident that many of these jobs can be filled by women. It can also help to have more economic independence for them, so more women economic empowerment, and better and fair societies. So I hope that this start can really support and help all of us to join forces under the network towards developing practical actions to empower young women in STEM education and career building, to prove what statistics keep repeating, that women are not only equally as good as men in education and in the labor force, but as I used to say, women are the best. So however, the entire region, from business to academia to policymakers, needs to invest major efforts in increasing the share of girls and women in STEM, particularly in the areas that of computer science and engineering. We are ready and will continue to pursue the women economic empowerment agenda in the future through the network of women in STEM. We campaign together with UNDP, encouraging young women to compete as well in our Balkathon. It's going to happen right now. Let's say by May time, Balkathon should happen, and make the most of the digital tools. So let's hope that this is going to be a great moment. I'm not going to take much of your time because I think I took a long. But I think that it's going to be really great to have more young women and girls not only choosing STEM, but to have and hear from them how can the region can be in a better shape through their contribution and their let's say share of ideas on this new and difficult times that we are facing. Thank you very much, and I pass the floor back to you, Siniša.
Thank you very much, Melinda, for sharing some quite disturbing facts about the position of women in the labor market, but more generally in society. I will not go into details repeating what you've just said. Instead, let me please invite our next key speaker, Ms. Mirjana Špoljić-Šeger, UN Assistant Secretary General and Regional Director of UNDP's Regional Bureau for Europe and the Commonwealth of Independent States. So Mirjana, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Siniša. Good afternoon, colleagues, and Melinda, special good afternoon to you. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of UNDP and to join you and the Regional Cooperation Council in welcoming everybody to the launch of the Women in STEM network in the Western Balkans. I know that our teams have been working on this and other issues, as you have mentioned, Melinda, for close to 2 years now. And I want to thank first and foremost them for preparing this event again and for bringing the substance to the table that we need to promote women in the Western Balkans. Melinda, you've said it all, so let me just use 2-3 minutes to highlight some of the dimensions that we've been discussing for so long now and want to continue promoting. And I want to start by quoting somebody you doubtlessly know, the American jurist and Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whom I have admired for a long time. And, living in the United States now, she's very present still. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception." And this is something that belongs to the STEM discussion in particular, and in my view, because we all know that for thousands of years, false stereotypes have prevented women and girls from realizing their full potential. And we know that denying girls and women equal access to education, and especially decent, and by decent, I also mean high value jobs, we are depriving the world of the talent and innovation of half the global population. And Melinda said it, we need women and men if we want to recover from COVID. And I think it is urgent that we address this dimension in the Western Balkans in particular. At the end of last year, UNDP and RCC together started a regional initiative, a very comprehensive initiative on women's economic empowerment in the Western Balkans. We want to help build women's human capital and advance gender equality in the region. And it is really no news today, and we've heard it, that in the future world of work, a crucial pathway to economic empowerment lies in the STEM fields. Jobs in STEM are some of the fastest growing worldwide, with 90% of future jobs requiring information and communication technology skills. But the global gender disparity in these fields is significant, and the Western Balkans economies are not an exception to this trend. We have seen that women were disproportionately hit by COVID, also because they work predominantly in high-risk sectors like retail and care. And in addition to this not being the highest paid jobs, it's also jobs that are often informal and often not tied to adequate social protection. Now, even when women, and especially young girls, excel in natural science and technology while they're at school and later at higher in higher education, they still face multiple barriers in entering the relevant workforce. It won't happen by itself. And as a result, according to my information, women only hold about 14% of formal STEM jobs in the Western Balkans. But I must assume that the situation is very similar across the globe. Now, the lack of professional support, as Melinda has said, and especially the lack of networks for women in a male-dominated environment confines women's career progression, and in particular limits them to lower and mid-level positions where they are often paid less than their male counterparts. Now, saying this, we also have to acknowledge that the salary gap normally is smaller in the STEM fields than it is in other areas of employment. So by pushing women into the STEM area of employment, we are also helping, hopefully, progressively, to close the gender pay gap in the future, especially also in the region where we work. Now, the often cited reason, or one of the often cited reasons for gender disparity among STEM degrees earned, but also successful STEM careers, and in particular, and this I've seen across the region, not only in the Western Balkans, but also in further in the East and in Central Asia, the absence of female founders of tech enterprises is due to the low visibility of women in this field. You don't become what you don't see, and you don't entice your daughter to become something that you don't see every day. So this is why we want to connect the women in the STEM fields with each other, with mentors, but in my opinion, we also have to connect them with potential investors and really create and foster these role models going forward. We have to amplify and emphasize their voices. And this is also why we are so proud of launching this network and why we want to support this network with a STEM for All online platform, which is not limited to the Western Balkans, but which will figure and feature key actors in the STEM ecosystem across Europe and Central Asia. This platform should offer resources and share success stories in particular, and experience and best practice on how to close the gender tech gap going forward. Now, what is most important is that you are with us today and that you believe in these initiatives, that you support these initiatives, and that you capitalize on these platforms that we are trying to promote, because without you, we will not be able to achieve that transformative change, which we are determined to make happen in the region, especially coming out of COVID, because our shared ambition of UNDP and the RCC is to accelerate gender equality in all aspects of life. And this is envisioned in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And again, coming back to the COVID recovery, we live in a fast changing world. We have seen how fast digital transformation can happen. So it is extremely urgent that we close this gender tech gap, that we close the gap in science and technology for women, not only to promote women and to make sure that they are not left behind, but also to promote economies and make sure that we benefit from the human capital that we have, because without it, we will not recover adequately. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melinda, for the always good cooperation. I look forward to the discussions that we are having today and to our further cooperation. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you very much, Mirjana. Again, quite a few inspiring thoughts and some worrying figures around the world. However, what I liked the most about both of your speeches is this outlook for the future. I believe personally, as men, obviously, I'm the only one here, that women can definitely contribute significantly, and I dare say in many fields more than men. This is quite courageous for men to say, but knowing many successful women and working with many of them, including the RCC, I've learned that women can really outperform men if given adequate sort of environment to thrive in. With this in mind, I would like to thank you both for these initial speeches. And I would like to invite now our colleague, Maria Aristesca, the head of the research team we hired last year to prepare the map of gender-related policies, programs, and mechanisms on gender and STEM in the Western Balkans. Maria is the Executive Director of the Center for Research and Policy Making from Skopje. The study you presented to us last year was extremely useful. Without speaking too much, Maria, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this invitation and for this remarkable keynote speeches at the beginning of the event. I very much appreciate what was said, and I agree that unlocking women's talent is key to economic development, and especially this should be seen in this time of crisis. I'm very happy that we are launching the regional network of women in STEM. It is amazing that not long ago, less than a year ago, we started working on the mapping of gender-related policies and programs on gender in STEM in Western Balkans, a study that was produced for RCC by team of experts that I led. I sent my regards to my colleagues Mehmet Mehmeti and Olga Samardzic-Yankova, who contributed greatly to this work. This study is a very comprehensive study, a study that covers all 6 economies in the Western Balkans, and that gathered a lot of data. That part of it you can see here on the screen. But what I want to say is that by doing this study, our team has observed that the Western Balkan economies do not collect and keep uniform sex disaggregated data on education, science, and technology. So therefore, this screen is divided into 6 cubicles and not sharing with you one table in which we can see the status of gender equality in STEM. We don't have uniform sex disaggregated data. Some of the countries do not even keep sex disaggregated data on all of the fields that are relevant to gender equality and STEM. Therefore, the data is not comparable and cannot fully account on the status of women in STEM, which has an effect on the policy-making process in the countries individually and I guess in the region as well. So this is most relevant to be witnessed by an organization like the Regional Cooperation Council. And we strongly recommend that UNDP and the RCC take an initiative, a regional one, for uniformation of the sex disaggregated data in this field, so that we can have actually a better account of the status of women in STEM and inform policy development in the future. Without data, policies are not informed on the actual situation and the needs of women and men in STEM. And but still, the available data that we gathered show, as said before, that women enroll less in STEM education compared to men, although their educational results in STEM relevant fields are better than that of men. This actually shows that the choices of women are influenced by social norms and by expectations of the society, as rightly pointed out by Mirjana before. These social norms are perpetuated in each of the economies and around the region, but also are in some even institutionalized by policies. So what is the situation? In all 6 Western Balkan economies, we have women that participate less in the labor market and in the workforce in science, technology, engineering, and math. Men vastly outnumber women majoring in most STEM fields in college, and women benefit less from the new job opportunities in STEM-related occupations because of that. Knowing that globally, the demand for STEM jobs will increase for 8% each year, we should facilitate more inclusion of women in STEM in order for bigger gender gaps not to be created by the labor market of the future. And the COVID crisis, the digitalization it provoked, as well as the impact it had on future of work, can, in addition, contribute to widening gender inequalities. At the moment, in the Western Balkans, we can boast that women's STEM attainment is above EU average, but still it's not in balance. And therefore, we have to continue working on the attainment figures, but also on transition of women from STEM education into the labor market, where we observe the biggest dropout. What are the identified gaps for policies of women in STEM? First of all, we see disconnection between the legislative framework on gender equality and the policy framework relevant for STEM. What does this mean? This means that the policies that we have analyzed show that there is no gender perspective included in policy frameworks that are relevant for STEM, and there is no reference to STEM activities and measures in the gender policy frameworks. And this disconnection makes STEM not a priority for both education and research and development, as well as science policy frameworks. Neither allows for gender mainstreaming of these frameworks, except for 3 of the economies where we have observed such situation, which is Albania, Kosovo, and North Macedonia. There is also a lack of policy dialogue and cooperation between the policymakers, the international organizations, and the civil society that work in the field of promotion of women in STEM. The study showed that there are a lot of initiatives of international organizations and of civil society that promote STEM fields, but rarely include gender perspective in it, and they lack cooperation or active inclusion in policy dialogue and development of the policies, measures, and the budgets that are allocated for their implementation towards bigger promotion of women in STEM fields. This is, of course, not in alliance with the trends that we see globally, where there have been a lot of efforts put by UNESCO and some individual European states, as well as the EU as a whole, to advance women's participation in STEM so that it can facilitate further economic development. What are the main gender gaps that we observe in the region? First of all, we see that there is low participation in STEM education, and this especially is relevant for girls who choose a profession that revolves around their gender role, which is related to taking care of the family and the children, girls choose usually a profession that resolve also real life problems. Therefore, we foresee that it's important to transform the educational curricula and the way how education is delivered, so that we can break the current gender stereotypes that are being formed at a very young age, and present the STEM fields as fields where women and girls especially can have a field in which they can resolve real life problems, as they tend to choose a profession that is related to this feature. We need also educational systems that provide self-confidence and support for girls to continue in STEM fields, so that we don't have the best students with the best educational results in STEM relevant subjects not to apply and finish education in STEM. The second gender gap we observe is the gender segregation in professions. This is relevant and related to the first gender gap. Once we don't have women attaining STEM education, they do not choose a profession in STEM. Or if they attain STEM education, in some countries, like the country I come from, Macedonia, we see a great dropout from labor market, STEM labor market, by women who have finished education in STEM. There are gender differences in interests, and we have to, through educational system, to steer them in order for girls to choose a profession in STEM. That's not enough, because, as I said, dropping out from STEM labor market is a trend, and we have to build also labor relations in STEM that are adapted to the needs of women. We need to create job places that are comfortable and address the needs of women and their gender roles, because women tend to experience problems and crises at work because of lack of balance between professional and family life. That is very common in STEM professions. The fourth gap that we see is the entrepreneurship gap, where men commonly start business in areas that are relevant to STEM, where women are more prone to start a business in areas which are more close to their gender role, where the society accepts them as entrepreneurs. This stereotype and segregation should be overcome by the different financial instruments that are available for entrepreneurship, striving towards supporting women to start up a business in so to say, male profession or male field, male-dominated field. And finally, and this is something that Mirjana has spoken greatly, and that is the gender pay gap due to the gender segregation in professions, in the entrepreneurship gap, and the dropout of women from the STEM labor market, where salaries are higher than in the professions where women usually work, related to care work. We observe a gender pay gap. So overcoming all these gender gaps would have an effect on decreasing the gender pay gap as well, because it will allow greater participation of women in STEM, in jobs which are better paid, and this will contribute to decreasing the gender pay gap. Why is this important? Because the Western Balkans economies are striving to become an EU members, and the EU has a gender equality strategy that is very high priority, is directing all the countries to build policies that and economies which are supporting diversity, equal rights between girls and boys, so that they are free to pursue their chosen path in life, have equal opportunities to thrive, and can equally participate and lead our European society. This absence of parity of women in STEM in the Western Balkans, that is due to the prevailing social norms and attitudes, is not allowing for the Balkans to realize the European objectives. That's why the Western Balkan countries should use the prescribed dual approach of gender mainstreaming combined with targeted actions as part of the coherent EU's external policy on gender equality and women's empowerment, and approximate the regulatory and policy frameworks with the EU directives, so that balancing of work and life can be established in the STEM fields, and these jobs become more attractive for women to take them. The study also identifies change agents and good practices, as well as innovations for women in STEM. We consider that PISA international study offers plenty of data sets that can inform the policy development process, but because of the poor performance of education systems in the region, this study has been rarely used for policy development. We consider that the use of the study results can be directed towards informing policy debates to formulate measures that will address the decreasing interest of girls in STEM higher education, despite the better performing results girls have during especially high school in the areas of math and science. The second change agent that we see in the region is the Scientics initiative, which is promoting and supporting Europe-wide collaboration among STEM teachers, education researchers, policymakers, and other STEM education professionals. We need to provide bigger visibility to the Scientics initiative and include Montenegro and Kosovo in it, because this is the only initiative we have identified in the region which focuses on STEM and not on ICT or engineering specifically. And we think that it's important to mainstream gender in this initiative so that it can serve to promotion of women in STEM. The British Council 21st Century School Initiative in Western Balkans also offers an opportunity for building digital skills and employment prospects of young people. And we see that it's worthwhile to explore the gender component to be built into this initiative in order to strengthen the promotion of girls in STEM. And finally, we consider international technological investment zones, which have been operating in most of the economies in the region, as a very important positive factor for promotion of women in STEM, because they are these type of investment zones are allowing for women to not just bridge the horizontal segregation of the labor market that we see between women and men, because they attract and mobilize more women in STEM jobs, but also we see that they break the vertical segregation in these jobs and allow for women to progress to managing positions, which is, for example, very important for North Macedonia and for Serbia, where although we have a lot of women in STEM, in research and development, they are facing glass ceiling on these jobs. And finally, what we see as a positive development and are very happy that we are launching today, Women in STEM Network. We think that a Women in STEM Network is going to support further women's development in the field and promotion of women's participation in STEM. The study identified what the possible vision, objectives, and what regional initiative this STEM network could have. And therefore, I will present it to you so that you can start with the discussion in the next panel. The study detected that the vision of a regional network should be Women in STEM network will make partnership with business, industry, universities, non-profits, and government to build a diverse community that values, respects, and supports women in STEM. And it should have two main objectives: to facilitate constructive discussion by promoting role models, introducing guest speakers, and collaborating with universities and businesses in matching young girls with companies towards building confidence for choosing STEM career, or increasing retention of STEM women graduates in STEM labor market, and to provide policy advice to policymakers in the region to create effective, efficient, and comprehensive policy and institutional framework for bridging the gender gap in STEM, retention of women in science, technology, and industry, and supporting women in leadership in these fields. The regional initiatives that the Women in STEM network could take is a scholarship scheme for young girls in STEM that can be regional, so that we can place a girl from Macedonia in Serbia, a girl from Kosovo to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and so on. And regional mentorship and internship placement programs that will provide for the support, self-confidence building, and opportunities, and hopefully labor market mobility that the Regional Cooperation Council is also supporting. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present you the study on mapping of the gender policies and practices for increased participation of women in STEM.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this comprehensive overview of the study results. You mentioned a number of points that are really worth considering for the future activities of the network. But since we are kind of running late slightly, I would like to invite immediately our technical support to air a short video we prepared ahead of the official launch, and then we will move on to the panel discussion. Maria, thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
it is a truth, universally acknowledged, that every man, and woman for that matter, with a resident address in the Western Balkans must be in need of a good air quality app. And this one in particular has been developed in the Western Balkans by a 19-year-old. Shall we meet her? The air quality is good. The app says the air is safe. Let's go. Hey Leila, making some new app?
As a matter of fact, yes, but you'll have to wait to hear more.
Very young, but already innovating, making apps, making a havoc in a man's world, aren't you? How come?
Well, it's an occupation born out of curiosity. When I was just 15, I have written my first line of code, and it just clicked with me. It challenged me. After that, I enrolled in many IT courses, joined IT Girls, and started applying on Geek Fest and many different hackathons. I was even invited to do an internship in one big IT company. Oh, this tech world might be still predominantly male, but we girls are catching up, and I'm not the only one. And one more thing, networking is also important.
Yes, it surely is. Well, I can't wait to hear more from you and your fellow IT girls.
You can count on that.
I suppose we all believe that many young women like this wonderful lady exist in our immediate neighborhoods. Some of the panelists to whom we're going to talk to today are living proof of that. But before we move on to the panel, I would like to use the opportunity to thank both our keynote speakers, Mirina and Melinda, for being with us today, for sharing your thoughts, and of course, providing the support we all need to advance not only the Network of STEM initiative, but more broadly, women economic empowerment agenda in the Western Balkans. I know that both of them have to leave. They have other appointments at 3 o'clock CET. So Mirina and Melinda, thank you very much for being with us today. Now, please allow me to introduce the panelists today. Alphabetically speaking, let me start with Ms. Hatice Bilbashi, the founder of Albanian ICT Academy, obviously from Albania. There are some other hats that Hatice wears, but this is the one that we'd like to emphasize. Followed by Ms. Azra Saric, Chief Communication Officer from one of the biggest ICT companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mistral. We have also Zana Tabaku, Application Development Center co-founder and CEO from Kosovo. Radenka Kasmanovic-Wiffen, professor, university professor, and the only one here who's not from the ICT sector. So we hope to hear some good inputs from Radenka. Radenka, welcome. Zoya Kukic, finally, Digital Serbia Initiative, Program Director for Startup Ecosystems from Serbia. Unfortunately, as I mentioned at the very beginning, our sixth panelist from North Macedonia, Ms. Sonja Filipovska, the professor at the University of Cyril and Methodius in Skopje, had to cancel. She did not feel well. Once again, we hope that Sonja gets better as soon as possible, and we hope that she will be able to join us next time when this initiative starts with some practical activities. Usually when it comes to regional meetings, we kind of start alphabetically from Albania, followed by Bosnia and Herzegovina, etc. But let me break this sort of unwritten rule. I would like to start with the youngest one here. And that's our colleague Zoya from Serbia. She's one of the leaders in this industry, in ICT industry in Serbia. although very young. Before the meeting, we discussed about how we should approach this and what would be the message that she would like to get across. And what she mentioned kind of got me thinking, and this is why I'd like to hear from Zoya first, because Zoya mentioned that it's not only about empowering young women to enter STEM fields, but also to empower women who are already in STEM fields, who already work in this industry, to progress on the career ladder. This is a very important point, I believe, because in many cases, even in this, having in mind this male-dominant culture, women tend to get jobs, but rarely do they get to higher executive positions in companies and institutions, for that matter. So Zoya, if you don't mind, I'd like to give the floor to you and share some thoughts with us to kickstart this discussion.
Thank you, Sinisha, but I have to say, while I'm looking at the women here, I wouldn't guess that I'm the youngest. So you told a secret, I'd say, because I think we all look quite similar. So just to share briefly, first of all, I want to say that one of the reasons why I actually wrote that to you is this great study that Maria just presented, because we often hear the numbers behind the women in STEM, but I feel this was a really a wake-up call in terms of that when you look at the percentages of women graduating in a lot of STEM fields, they are not so bad. You know, you look at them and then you compare yourself with some other countries and you're like, well, we are not doing that bad. But then when you drill a little deeper, what we see is the fact that men occupy high paid positions, men occupy leadership positions, and that's the issue that I think that we need to solve in order to get women more women role models, and then create something that I call like a self-sustainable system. Because if we get the women who have already chosen STEM and are graduating from STEM, and we don't get them enrolled at work opportunities, and then we don't let them climb the ladder, then that's where we are losing them. We are not losing them because they're not interested. We are losing them because of something else. And although the whole world is now talking about let's get women, more women in STEM, I think that our region is, I won't go into reasons, but lucky enough not to have that problem be as big as in some other countries. I think that all 6 countries of the Western Balkans are actually leaders in the percentage. European leaders are in the top 10 on the overall number of women in STEM. So how do we utilize that now, and how do we make sure that we don't fall from that list is something where I believe is my proposal number 1, which is the one you shared, and that's let's empower women already there, and let's build support systems for them. I think what women in STEM are facing is not very different what women in some other areas are facing as well, which is this, let's say, different expectations from men and women, and different also leadership skills. And then we have all this women problem, which is called self-esteem and self-assurance, where we are mostly critical towards ourselves. Women don't apply to jobs if they don't fill the 100% of requirements, while men apply even when they are having only 60%. And those are the things that I think we need to empower women in the STEM fields to recognize, and then to provide them better networks which will push them up the ladder, better skills which are not skills, don't have to be skills in STEM, but business skills and business advice and support network, which will enable them to grow and to build this STEM network together with us. And because I know that talking on and looking at the Zoom screen is boring, that would be my point number one. So empowering women who are already in STEM. But then also Linda said it at the very beginning, and I would also like to go back to that, is that not every area of STEM is the same. So in some areas we have even higher percentages of women enrolling in the universities. And then in programming and engineering, women are still a minority. So I will also say that we also need to get more of them in. So we need, here I want to stress one point, which I also saw in comments from one of the attendees in the panel. And when I say get more of them, first of all, we need to empower girls and young women to enter these areas. And I don't think that's the case right now. Like, I get very frustrated when I see, for example, top 10 STEM toys and robotics toys, and they are all made for boys. Blue, there are some cars, robots, Star Wars features. So they are not appealing to girls. They're not appealing to parents and parents' friends who are buying those kids' toys. And that's the first line where we lose girls and we empower boys. So that's one very important step where we need to think how to open up this for girls. But another thing is also in these areas, these are the areas, especially technology, it's something that's becoming embedded in every aspect of our lives, therefore in every aspect of our business. And I believe that we should empower women who haven't already chosen technology to start getting more involved in them. So if I got correctly, for example, Azra, you are not a tech person by education, but you are now one of the leaders in a very big tech company. And that's something that we should also empower and get women to work in. The similar situation is for me as well. And I think it's doable and it's important. And it's one, let's say, quick fix of the existing gap, which we can lower by just streamlining the resources that we have.
Thank you very much, Zoya, for bringing these very pertinent elements to the fore. I believe you mentioned quite a few points that we should all have in mind. One of them, and by the way, you mentioned Azra. So let me move on to Azra now, because in our preparatory meeting a few weeks ago, Azra took the floor very confidently, as she is, and said one quite important sentence that at least stuck in my mind. As I said, it's not about competence, it's about confidence. This is something that resonates to what Zoya just mentioned about climbing the hierarchy ladder, career ladder, and getting women to enter, but also to stay in the STEM field. So Azra, how would you, could you elaborate on this in having in mind the involvement of women in STEM? How would you approach it?
Thank you, Sinisha. Zoe, yes, you said self-esteem, and it's exactly what I want to talk about. And I'll start with why I say confidence, not competence. Three things. First of all, that's nurture rather than nature, so our upbringing. And then comes the education, and then finally the employment. We raised, not only in the Western Balkans, but let's say we are slightly lagging behind the Western Europe in raising girls to be more observant of tradition, to be, and in a way, it's the parents' responsibility often when, you know, they would say, I live in Sarajevo, I'm from Trebnje, so in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they will say, you know, go to economics school and legal school, that's for the girls, not for, you know, the electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, that's mostly boys and it's not best for the girls. So the way we raised also has an effect on girls. So then we come to education. And again, family plays a great role in what education girls decide to take. And when you take that, I'm raising a teenager, and he's a confident male, but you know, with girls, and I see the girlfriends, they lack confidence, and they're easily persuaded not to perhaps pursue something that they would like to do. And finally, employers. I work for a large company. We employ now over 200 people in software development. And to be honest, by the time they apply, and I can say that because I worked in human resources as well, we really do not look at gender as any kind of obstacle. It's a non-observant fact. It's the talent and the chat and conversation and the talent and potential mostly that we look for. And it's good to see that we have, you know, more girls applying. Now, I'll go, when I mentioned education, I'm a mentor to an amazing girl currently studying at mechanical engineering. And she's currently studying abroad due to Erasmus program, which is amazing, because I think that's also very good for the building confidence in girls and traveling. But one of her professors here said, you know, there's 2 girls and 4 boys at this program. And, you know, said, are you girls going to cook there? So, you know, it's education, it's that old mentality. And I'm afraid to say, you know, old mentality in the head that prevents these girls. And, you know, we had a chat about this, and obviously all she needed is really somebody to, you know, to enable her, to push her and just tell her that she, you know, she can do that. Zoe also mentioned about 60%, you know, girls being perfectionists. So there's 3 things why competence and confidence play part. Girls' majority of female gender is more of a perfectionist. We are more risk averse. So we don't like to take too many risks. And we also look for that appraisal or encouragement saying you're doing a good job. So, you know, keep up the good work. It's just the way, I suppose, let's go back to nurture. So why that is the case. So I'll give you another example, and I'll stop because I think it's best explained with examples. So, you know, looking at the job spec, we'll say we are looking for certain technologies, and the girls would look and say, okay, I know 3, don't know 2. These 2 may be probably the more important ones, so I think I want to apply. A boy may know 2, and they're like, yeah, I can do this. And we see that when we talk to people about languages that they speak. So we had recently a girl that joined us and lived 2 years in Italy, and she says, oh, well, I suppose I speak Italian. And then there was a boy at the same time. He said, yeah, I watch TV, Kika, you know, so I speak German when I was a boy. So I'm saying confidence plays a great part. So I'll just end with one example. I think in preparation for this virtual conference, I took a day off last week, and I went to a nail salon. And the girl that was doing my nails afterwards, and I was chatting to her, knowing her name, but she wasn't really disclosing too much information about her. And then the woman that runs the hair salon, the nail salon, she said to me, you won't believe it. She graduated in law. She finished all these like IT courses, something in your line of work. And she's here, and I don't want her to be here. She needs to go and work for IT companies. She's a programmer. She thinks like a programmer. So anyway, I spoke to her, and literally she's applied now for lots of jobs, and I know she will get one. And all I did was speak to her for half an hour. She sent me her CV and cover letter, and seriously, I've lived in England and I wouldn't be able to, I did not find fault in her cover letter. So they just need a little bit of a push in the right direction. So I hope I explained.
Yes, that was quite energetic, as usual, Azra. I believe, yes, you did explain. And when it comes to this push you mentioned at the very end, I'd like now to kind of shift discussion from mainly IT to other fields of STEM. Unfortunately, there's a kind of confusion in the general public about STEM. Most people believe IT is STEM. Information technologies, However, STEM is much broader, and that's why I would like now to invite scientists and physicists, Ms. Radenka Krasmanović-Wifan, to join the floor and share her thoughts about how to attract young women into, if I can put it that way, non-IT STEM fields, so physics, chemistry, engineering, anything of that sort. So Radenka, back to you now.
Thank you, Sinisha. You are right. We have to bear in mind that STEM is an abbreviation for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So the IT sector is just one part of the whole spectrum that we have here, from the natural sciences, chemistry, physics, biology, and formal sciences like mathematics, statistics, and logic, to different branches of engineering that we can say that they are solving real life problems, like electric engineering or civil engineering, chemistry engineering, biomolecular engineering, and so on. So we can think of them as an application of maths and science. And we should also acknowledge that engineering and computer science are probably two of the most lucrative STEM fields today, and hence the reason of their popularity, also the reason that in this panel here we have lots of women in ICT. I think we need to remember that the STEM skills are 21st century skills. By STEM skills, I mean things like critical thinking, the ability to analyze, problem solving, creativity, adaptability, and being able to base decisions on data and evidence. And all of these are crucial to being successful in the modern world and the modern job market. And these are the skills that employers want and expect these days. I agree with all that Zoe mentioned, that we need more women in decision-making positions. They can be a CEO of a startup, or a vice rector of a university, or the head of a research lab, or the head of the department. Doesn't really matter, but we need more examples of success, and we need more women with more influence, because that is how we change the culture. And we all agree that we need to change the culture in the Western Balkans. As for the STEM, traditional STEM narrative in the Western Balkans, that traditionally STEM is not for girls, we agree that it's not true, and we need to create some forums and pathways to include more women in STEM. The other truth is also that there is lots of successful women in the Balkans, women in STEM, who are from the Balkans, but unfortunately, in many cases, they just don't work in the Balkans. They rather end up working elsewhere because of a lack of opportunity in the region. And I spent most of the last 20 years studying and working abroad in 5 different countries around Europe. And I came back home to Montenegro only last year. I felt that these places abroad were places for opportunities, for doing excellent science and excellent research, and also for moving from research to innovation, or better, using research results to innovate, to connect with industry, to connect with the market, to create startups, to create spin-offs. And this is something that doesn't happen enough in the Western Balkans, and that's something we need to change. Also, if we want to stop brain drain, stop exporting our talent, we need to create a situation where innovative research can impact the market, and it has to be supported in a gender-neutral way across all STEM fields. Today, scientists understand that they have to use their knowledge for real world impact and to benefit societies. And this is something also that our students from the early age have to understand, that scientists are doing things that are good for society. And your question, Sinisha, how to present science better to young people, how to make them love physics and mathematics, for example. I think we have really to start from young age, from children, even preschool children, and do experiments that are adequate for that age. Do things so hands-on. We have to show that science is fun. Science is not scary, and that things that scientists do are benefit all society. So I think we have to think also in that direction, starting from young people. I have two small boys at home, and I can see that works. They love science, both of them.
Thank you very much, Radenka. Thank you for being wary of time. I have the phone ringing, but I will just disregard it. I can't reach it now. Now, since you mentioned empowering young women by creating opportunities for them, we come to the point where we have two also extraordinary ladies in businesses. So I would perhaps like to start with Zana. When preparing this panel, I found something about you that you openly disclose, that you are a kind of a dropout, a university dropout. You started studying English literature, as is usually the case with many women around the region in social sciences and humanities, but at some point you realize that's not really your calling, that's not what you would like to do. Instead, you decided to co-found a company that's quite successful now in Kosovo. Could you please share some of your thoughts about how you actually did it and how you, in your daily work, encourage young women to enter the STEM fields, how you approach them to tell them that this is for them and that they can do it?
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, you can say that I'm a successful dropout. But 2 years ago, I again got back to school. So I'm again a student. Yeah, so when I started my career back in 2005, when I went to ICT Programming Academy, I was a student in English literature, and then I saw an advertisement for a programming academy, and I went there. So of course I dropped out of university and worked and studied in that company for 4 years. And after that, I decided with some of my colleagues to found the company, which is now Updeck. So I founded the company in 2009. And since then, in 2010, because of course we were talking, and other panelists, they were talking about lack of women in, especially in ICT sector. But as Zoya mentioned, and Azra as well, we're not that bad compared to developed countries, EU and US. So the percentage is over there. But back in 2009, I was the only female in my group. In a group of 10, I was the only female. And then I started a programming academy myself, which lasted a year, and engaged a lot of women. What I do now I have another project. It's called Junior Geeks, and it tackles this issue for young students or from high school students, so they can go and study ICT, especially programming, because we have a lack of professional staff. And one of the panelists, I can't remember, yeah, Radenka mentioned about the brain drain, because also in Kosovo we are experiencing a lot of brain drain. So what we're doing with this project, with this Junior Geeks project, we selected 230 students all over Kosovo to follow a 14 module program. They learn about software development, they learn about game development, iOS development. So all the fields in ICT sector, so they will know what they will study when they go to the studies. And this is the second year of this project, because it had a huge impact the first round. And out of 70 students, 50 of them went to programming studies. So that was a great impact. And then the US Embassy followed with another project, and we expanded it in all over the Kosovo. So mainly participants in Junior Geeks, 50% of them are female, and we're also tackling this issue about women involvement in ICT sector with Kosovo ICT Association, as well as I am a mentor in Innovation Center Kosovo, where there are a lot of groups of talented young girls where I mentor them. And I am so happy to say that 40% of my staff is female. And I'm looking forward to do it over 50% by the end of this year. So I try my best to be the role model and to push girls forward to go to ICT studies.
I find your goal to have 50% plus women in your company by the end of the year exceptional and really worth applauding, as Zoya is currently doing. I hope you succeed. But since we are still within the 5-minute bracket, can I just ask you a sub question on how do young girls actually react when they confront the idea of joining or becoming programmers, for example?
Oh, well, it all depends. There are a lot of young girls that are enthusiasts, IT enthusiasts, and so it's easier with them. But there are other girls that they are scared of math. That's when we come in as a mentor and also as organizations. We're programming. Of course, there is a lot of math in the studies, but it's not that tragic, and everything is learnable. And programming and coding, especially coding, because we've been talking to organizations and institutions, and because we are trying to push coding from first grade. It's not yet, but we're trying to push that idea, because coding, it's a concept of thinking. It's not a programming language. Programming languages can be learned over the years, but the coding, when they get the algorithms, when they understand the algorithms, then they can do everything. And these days, girls, especially here in Kosovo, they tend to go more to ICT fields, because they see the opportunities, and they see what can this sector bring to them. I always try to mention that they will never be out of the job. They always have a guaranteed job, especially in this century, and because the technology is going forward and everything now it depends on technology, they will never be out of the job. So I think that this is where I trick them when they're scared of maths.
A very good approach, I must say, and I suppose it works most of the time. Now, thank you very much, Zana. Of course, now, last but not least, Hatice Bilbashi, our colleague from Albania. It says that one of Hatice's hats is the founder of Albanian ICT Academy. Several days ago, I encountered a quite interesting campaign on LinkedIn, actually, brought by a female founder of a company, and she started confronting the idea that women should say that they are female founders of companies. Instead, she said, she just sort of cut this word female, and she said, I'm a founder company. Hatice has this background as well, but she's also a university teacher, so she wears two hats. She works with young people. Could you also share some of your thoughts and ideas on how to empower girls and young women to enter STEM education, and how to get them to stay there and progress in their careers? Hatice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sanisha, and thank you for all the wonderful thoughts that we listened today for this wonderful woman in ICT and in STEM. I am very honored to share my experience today with you and my suggestions for the woman in STEM. As you say, I am a university lecturer and founder of Make with ICT, that is software development company, and Albanian ICT Academy, that is first innovation center for children in Albania, established since 2014. One of the main points important to us is giving support to girls in the field of STEM and ICT. And here I would like to share one of our special projects for girls in ICT that from 3 years in Tirana, we are offering free ICT training for girls that have lost their parental care. And we are following these girls until to their employment in different ICT companies. Until now, 60% of them are working in labor market. And now we are extending these projects in all of city in Albania. Not only for the girls that have lost their parental care, but for all the girls with needed. Also, very important, another very important project, and I think this is important point, we need to have STEM training and STEM activities with girls in early ages. It is very important to include girls in early ages in STEM field because they will be more professional prepared for the future. STEM learning from early age is the key, I think, if we want to address the STEM skills gaps. And another important point is the STEM career orientation. Most of the girls, when they choose a university profile, they have a lot of information about all over the profile, about the social profile, about medicine and other profile, but they don't have a lot of information, or they don't have any information about the STEM. So it is important to tell them with a STEM career orientation and to give them a full panorama for their future professionals in this field. And of course, to tell them that career in STEM is superpower for the girls, sure, and also is very fun. And the third point I would like to share is we need to support and also to promote successful women. All the panelists say are in this point the same, but promoting women in STEM, we will tell the young girls that you also can be successful STEM woman in the future and power woman. So it's very important to support this woman, and this woman can be mentor for young girls in the future. Very shortly, because to don't repeat the same idea, these are some of my suggestions and important projects we can develop not only in regional level, but and tomorrow in international level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this ambitious suggestion. For me, I'd rather stick to the Western Balkans for the time being, for at least a year or two, and let's see what we can do. You noticed in our preparatory meeting that we insisted on identifying priorities we can focus on and focus on some practical activities. Third point you raised has to do with promoting role models. I think this is extremely important. We have 5 extremely successful, remarkable women in STEM fields. We can definitely start from you, if you ask me. But since we have one chief communication officer here who's an expert in communication, Azra, can I ask you what would you think would be the best way to actually promote role models and other activities that Hatice and other panelists have mentioned so far?
I also follow the LinkedIn campaign. I'm a founder rather than a female founder, and then there's a huge discussion going on. And I think the summary of this conference today was that girls do need to look up to someone to become someone, just to know that it is possible. So one thing I would say is missing, because I'm a person that likes balance. I think, you know, everything in balance, in good balance, and not too many girls, not too many boys. It's just the good balance of boys and girls everywhere, I think is what would make us more successful as a region as well. So I think I would promote it through the fact what I believe we're lacking in the Western Balkans in general is this career advisory centers at secondary level education. So promoting successful females in STEM, be that physics or data science or IT or biology and medicine at that level. So I would say, you know, get involved with secondary level education, have career advisory centers, because a lot of young people don't know, unless their parents are in the scientific fields, what that actually means. And one thing I would say with the, you know, promotion of the careers in this is that kids, even university students, they're not aware of the plethora of positions that they can do within the either ICT sector or other sectors. So there's not just supportive roles, but evolving roles. So you have, you know, as we saw with Anna, linguists, and I don't know if you've heard of Karen Sperg-Jones, for example, and Steve Shirley, or she's Stephanie Shirley. They're my 2 greatest role models. But Karen Sperg-Jones studied linguistics and then went on to become amazing at, you know, she's the science behind Google, or how Google does their searches. And, you know, she only recently, I think 10 years ago, she passed away. So we have, you know, many female role models that we ourselves don't know about. So I think get into secondary schools with lots of, I think, female mentors that, Sinisha, you've already managed to find in the region, and start talking. Start, you know, my greatest vision is to have a double-decker bus traveling across Bosnia and Herzegovina and talking to kids at schools, saying, you know, guys, there's so many things you can do, and you don't have to be stuck in one field. And there's the one other thing that I would, you know, suggest is that it's possible for you to study law and go into STEM field. It's possible for you to study linguistics and end up being a programmer. That's one thing that I think we need to work on promoting, is the sense that you can change career regardless of what you've happened to have studied at university. So this is like reaching out to women that have passed kind of the secondary or higher level education grade, but are perhaps in certain industries that they want to have a change of career. So, you know, to say that is possible, but I do believe that they have to see someone to believe that. I think it's more impactful. I don't know what the other.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. Seeing is believing, indeed. So we need to identify the best way to reach out to those young girls in secondary education, to show them examples of yourselves, actually, and to also to break this myth, you know, bust the myth that entering STEM necessitates some kind of technical educational background. In many cases, this is not a must. For example, IT offers a number of jobs that have nothing to do with programming. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Perhaps Zana can get back on that one, because you work closely with young girls and boys, obviously. But do you think that this kind of a wrong perception about, in this particular case, ICT, is one of the barriers that we should somehow remove from this environment?
Yes, as I mentioned, I think the first problem and the biggest problem is what they're taught in primary and secondary, in high school, and because of the idea that the maths is a really tough subject, they tend to go straight to select other fields of study. So what we do, because there are a lot of online courses, free courses, programming, whether it be mobile programming or web programming, whatever. What we do tend to show them and to present them that it's not that hard, that it's not you can easily adapt, you can easily switch profession from, for example, what I did from English to ICT. It's not that hard, and most of the things, because the technology upgraded that much, that most of the things are becoming automatic, even in programming, because there is it's called business intelligence. It is integrated in all programming platforms. So it's not that tough anymore to program like it was 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, because I saw some of the participants who went to programming. But this is the idea. You have to show them the small steps or concrete steps on how you can achieve something. For example, I had the example with my own niece. She studied in agriculture something, and then I started to swift her in digital, and now she's social media manager. Of course, I delivered her to some companies to do a lot of trainings. There needs to be a lot of trainings done, but they with those trainings they can shift to other profession, and that's what I tend to do with all other girls that I meet. I love STEM, and I know that it's also for the physics and everything, but I'm more focused on ICT sector, because I work in ICT sector, and because of the lack that we have for professional staff, that's why I tend to put all of them in ICT sector. So yeah, but I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard when they want, and when they see that it is achievable, they tend to do that. They tend to go forward and try new waters, if you want to call it.
Thank you, Zana. It occurred to me that in my previous life as Assistant Minister for Science, we created what we call the Math Days here in Banja Luka, where I live. And at the beginning, I'm not from STEM. I'm a political scientist. It was awkward for most people to hear someone who's not from STEM fields to talk about math. I had only one condition. We would provide funding and support as long as there's no equations involved in Math Day whatsoever. There's no numbers. I wanted to encourage young boys starting from kindergarten to see how many different applications of math there are in real life. And it started as a very small activity, and then it moved on and it progressed into kind of major event that lasted for 2 days. These university teachers from science faculty actually had to go to other places to present what they created. They became extremely creative. They came up with so many different ideas on how math is applied in real life, from banking to, I don't know, measuring whatever. And kids loved it. As a result, and they measured it, as a result, the number of young people who enrolled science faculty, and then we joined also some other fields like chemistry, skyrocketed. I mean, it doubled within 3 years. So it is possible, and this is what Zana was really talking about. But there's something also that's quite, I believe, important. It's not only about getting young women into STEM fields and getting them to enroll universities and consider careers in STEM, but also developing this entrepreneurial mindset. Some of you mentioned that entrepreneurial mindset is not, it definitely isn't developed in the Western Balkans, generally speaking, but also is something that could be developed specifically looking at young women. I see 2 raised hands, and perhaps this is time to give the floor to Zoya and then to Aza.
I will be short. I was just, I'll get to the entrepreneurship topic if we have time, but I just wanted to say I completely agree with what you talked about and Radenka at the very beginning, that we need to make this whole STEM field fun. And then also Jana said another very important topic. It's not enough to say, hey, here are the women and look, these women are doing that. We need to provide them with the next step. And that next step is very crucial. So what does a parent or a teacher needs to do after they start believing that and they want to enroll their daughter or the girl themselves want to enroll? What is the next step for them? Because I mentioned briefly, it's often Lego robots, which then, for example, I'm just using it as an example, which are tailored to men, or they send them to a programming course where 80% of attendees are boys. So that's something that we really need to take care how to make it fun and how to make it inclusive. And then I also need to address one thing I noticed. It was an honest mistake from your side, but while you were giving a great example, you said we wanted to motivate young boys. And that's, and I know you didn't mean it, but it reminded me there was one great exercise, and we tried it out on both male young children and older ones, and then grown-ups, where you play with the cards like sheets of paper, and then you just showcase mathematician or like math, and then they say female, male. And it's incredible how many prejudice we have around professions and how these prejudices are so embedded that, for example, for me as well, who I try not to be, and this is my area. My first impression would go math man, STEM man. You know, like it's something embedded, and I think that's what we really need to pay attention on. So sorry, I know it was just in a matter of speaking, but that's something that I think a lot of us noticed at the moment, and that's something that happens as often in those conversations. And just to not to completely ignore your question, I agree, and entrepreneurship is something that's related to business acumen, that's related to this self assurance and confidence that Azra was talking mostly about. And we need to build all those things to get women to be able to build businesses. And I think also Maria at the end of her presentation mentioned some great initiatives how to empower women entrepreneurship in general. So I think the same goes for women in STEM, where we might even need it more, as that's where most of the innovations right now are present. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Zoya. Thank you for both raising your hand and also to Azra and Radenka. And thank you for spotting this subconscious, obviously, mistake. That's one of my biggest fears when I speak in front of women, not to say something gender sensitive and something stupid. So my apologies. So yeah, it's good that we reached the point where I don't have to ask, additional questions. Azra and then Radenka, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just a quick one to continue on to what I was saying earlier about promotion at schools and high schools. What I'm working on at the moment with my mentee is that she's going to speak in her high school in a small town in Bosnia about her experiences of studying and traveling through studying. So what I'm, suggesting is that we all have girls, that are younger girls at university age talking to girls in high schools, because they're more relatable. They may look at me and think, yeah, it's easy for her to say she lived in England or whatever. She had these opportunities all, in the last century. They need to find somebody or they need to look up to somebody who's really just a little bit older than them, but succeeding and encouraging them. So what I'm saying, we cannot limit this to a group of people, speaking to a choir, like we all agree and talk and not. We need to push this out into the society and empower girls at university age and high school age to empower others, not just girls, but girls and boys in industries that are educational fields that are really are useful to society as a whole, and the whole planet really, rather than regional. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Very good point. I fully agree. It's quite difficult for both girls and boys to relate to role examples that are a bit too old. So this peer role modeling could be a very successful tool in promoting STEM among young girls and women. Radenka, you wanted to say something, and then I intend to give the floor to Hatice for the last question, and I suggest we just have a very quick round of concluding remarks before we close the panel.
Thank you, Sinisha. I just wanted briefly to say that programming is a necessary skill today, without doubt, and just like speaking English. And but we use programming in STEM, in physics, in biology, so this has to be acknowledged. So when you are talking about ICT and programming, we use it in natural sciences. And so, for example, a physicist can reveal a structure of a new protein or invent a new material that has extraordinary properties. So I wanted to point that we cannot imagine today's science without programming. And so when you are talking to your, young girls, you can also mention that this knowledge can find use, in physics or in biology or in biomedicine. So they can be great programmers and work in this natural sciences. And just about mentorship, I think it's really important that we have mentors at universities, or at research centers, and when we have young students, girls, because that's the decisive time when they have to decide, I want to continue to do science, I want to do PhD, and or I just want to work. I have at my work examples when they are just interested they don't want to continue, they just want to find a job, because that's important, to find a job. And I in my own experience, I was very lucky that when I went abroad to Italy, I had the only mentor female I had in my life. So for 20 years, that was the only person that was female. But thanks to her, I end up in science. I'm an engineer, and I was also going to do ICT, but I ended up in physics, thanks to her, because she recognized my potential, and she really gave me a support. And that was something I think we need also to think about. So to have this, not just us to be mentors, but also to provide maybe some courses to the people, to the professors at universities, in high schools, teachers at primary schools, to give them this professional education to support young girls and students. And how to say, not to, I just, that's enough. Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, the last thought just like disappeared. It happens to all of us. Thank you very much. I think this is very important. You know, while listening to you, and before I give the floor to Hatice, it kind of occurred to me that the first practical activity we could focus on is really on focusing on promoting role models around the region through perhaps very short video clips like the one we've seen earlier on. And this was a very young lady, only 19 years of age, with some experience already behind her, to encourage other girls, but in their own context. I would not go for campaigns that are in English. I would go for campaigns that are in local languages that people can, girls in this particular case, can relate to much easier. The question I wanted to ask Hatice, and I would like to kind of get this to a close, has to do with the relationship with, in this men or male dominant culture. You are one of the founders of companies in Albania. How do investors actually treat you as a woman? I mean, how do you break these barriers? Could you just say a few words about that?
Sorry. I can say I'm very lucky with this. In my personal experience, I don't have, say, some barriers, but I have seen if we tell the men that we are in the same level in professionally, I think everything is more easy. More difficult thing for girls and women, I think, is to believe in herself, that they can achieve the high level professionals at the same level with maths. With if they break this difficult, I think it will be easy for all the girls and women, not only in STEM, but in leadership, in entrepreneurship, and in every field in her lives. This is my personal experience, not, I think maybe not for all women in STEM or in engineering and math.
Yeah, if I could draw one conclusion before you do, which is quite odd, that would probably boil down to just a single word: confidence. It's all about injecting confidence in these young women, as Azra mentions. I'm not stealing your motto, Azra, at all. But I kind of really enjoyed this discussion with 5 of very successful ladies from around the region. Now I would like to invite all of you, perhaps now in alphabetical order, starting from Hatice to Zoya, because Zoya started first, just to say, just a couple of sentences very briefly, your concluding remarks. What do you think we should do next, and some suggestions you may want to share with us. So Hatice, back to you again.
Thank you. Thank you for all this event for today. And I think we must have more activities as a region, and not only virtual in this situation that we have from COVID, but we can meet in a different country and to do one concrete plan, what we can do, and to extend this meeting to include more women and girls from STEM. And I would like to close with this sentence to tell all the girls that STEM is, of course, superpower for the girls.
Thank you very much, Hatice.
Thank you.
Very nice closing remarks. So Bosnia and Herzegovina now, Azra, please go ahead.
Encourage girls to apply, and it's okay to fail. I keep saying it's okay to fail. So what? Nobody's gonna die if you apply for a job and you don't get it. So what? But if you don't try, you don't get. And that's my message. It's just to encourage them to apply, because I'm going back to my nail salon girl, and the only reason she's not applied is because she's afraid. She's like, what are they going to ask me in the interview? I was like, so, whatever they ask you, it's okay to even fail. So that's my kind of ending message is keep trying. We need to encourage girls, empower them to just try and fail. And sometimes maybe learn to fail and say, it's okay to fail. So what? You get up and do it again. So that's the mentality that we need to be changing in our societies as well, because, we all like watching American movies. Why? Because they have a happy ending in the end, but they failed, so many times to get to the happy ending. So that's my message to the end. It's really encouraging us all to keep trying and keep failing, but learning and getting up and doing it again and, getting there in the end.
Yeah, thank you, Azra. I feel this has a lot to do with self-image. Sorry for interrupting again, but I have this urge to share this with you. 10 years ago, roughly, there was an experiment actually in France done in cooperation with, I think, the Federal or French Bureau for Employment. They identified several hundred unemployed women. And they provided free hair treatment to them before going to interviews. And remarkably, a huge number of these women, because they felt that they are more worthy than they felt before, performed very, very good. So I'm not equating anything here, but I think that I just wanted to resonate what Azra mentioned. I fully agree. Zana, please.
Yeah, so I think it was the question how we could proceed.
Yeah, please.
So I think maybe as a region, as a regional network, we can adapt a program maybe similar to Junior Geeks, but because as I said, it is really successful. It's shown to be really successful. So maybe we can adapt the same project and deliver it to all member countries in the region. And that way, I think we can get more women in to follow ICT or to study ICT. What I do always say in my presentations, especially in front of young girls, is you have to fail. I mean, you cannot learn without failing. I do mistakes like in every day, on daily basis. So I learn from my mistakes, and they just have to learn from their mistakes. They don't have to stick on that mistake and say no, I cannot continue anymore. So whatever mistake you make, you learn from it and you advance. So I think this would be it for me.
Very positive outlook on life. That there are victories and there are lessons, no sort of losses. Thank you very much, Zana. Radenka.
Thank you, Sencha. So I think we have to think about the future of the Western Balkan economies. What do we want our economies to look in the future? So they have to be smarter, greener, and more efficient. And sustainability is the key. Science will help us to find solutions. So what do we need? We need more women in STEM. They have the talent, the ideas, the motivation to succeed. And the Western Balkan is too small not to use all our talents all the time. And I think with this network, we can gather as many as possible women in STEM, and that together we can make a change. We can change the culture in the Western Balkans, first of all.
Thank you, and you can definitely assist in this matter, being one of the co-founders of regional Maria Sklodowska-Curie alumni association that gathers a number of extremely smart individuals, both women and men. So hopefully we can join forces with your association in the future too.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Zoya, you started, and you should end this panel. Go ahead.
I will also just be brief. I loved this whole initiative, and what brings me great joy is the fact that it's regional, and it's for me both this panel but also the previous gatherings we had was the first time I heard of some women, met some women, and I look forward and to learning from them, and I think that's where this huge potential lies. And I said it once again, but I completely agree with something that Zana suggested. Let's use what we have in our own countries and then regionalize those projects, bring more great examples. And in that way, we are strengthening the initiatives which are already existing, but bringing them to a higher level. And one last remark, because I know that we are going to dedicate some time towards role models, and definitely an important topic. When we are talking to girls, I wrote this down previously while Sinisha, you were talking, like we need to be on the platforms where those kids are. And I think that's very important, like not build vanity communication platforms where we see each other on LinkedIn and then share it among our friends, but let's find some kids who are already doing something magnificent for their peers and try to boost them to be more influential and more visible. That's it from me.
Thank you for sharing this extremely important element. I believe we need to speak the language that those young women or girls understand, rather than us, I hate myself being in this, having this tie around me. We need to approach them the way they will understand and they will relate to, rather than, just thinking that something will happen out of blue. Dear ladies, I really enjoyed the panel today. It's kind of time flied. I could speak to you on many other topics, and this could extend for hours, but we have to end. We are slightly behind the schedule. Anastas just wrote an excellent panel. Thank you very much, Anastas. And please, Anastas is Sonia's good friend. Please pass our regards and wishes for a very quick recovery for Sonia. We hope to see her in some other panel or any other activities we plan to do. Thank you very much once again. I will now hand over to my colleague Maja Handžićka Tenofilova, who will just say a few concluding remarks, and we will once again air the video we've shared already, and that will be the official end of this event. So thank you very much for joining today.
Thanks,
Maja.
Sinisha. So thank you very much. So allow me to thank, of course, all the panelists, but also our audience today for the insightful but also very inspiring contributions and inputs, which we will, of course, most certainly feed into the future work of the regional network of women in STEM. And I believe that we have initiated substantive discussions, and we have further paved the way for the regional joint efforts in promoting girls and women's inclusion in STEM education and careers. And we, of course, heard a number of reasons why both us in the Regional Cooperation Council as well as our UNDP colleagues joined the efforts in launching the network as part of the overall broader regional initiative on women economic empowerment. So let me try to very briefly summarize some of the key points that were put forward here today in the context of the network. So the network will aim to promote successful women as role models so that young women can relate to and identify to really encourage their increased participation in STEM fields. And Zoya's posted on social platform was, of course, well noted. Then also to create the mentoring and coaching programs for young girls entering, or as we emphasize today, even switching to STEM fields, but also climbing, very importantly, climbing the ladder against what is a really sticky status quo in terms of career advancement. Furthermore, we will try through the platform to organize regional events to exchange ideas and relatable, and the focus is really on relatable experiences, including efforts to scale up, to regionalize the local STEM-related events to the level of the Western Balkans 6, and of course, share both fun as well as good practices to motivate the practitioners to introduce similar tools, and this all against the bigger picture, as we said, the bigger vision that we all share here for the region. Then this is greener, smarter, digital, and much more inclusive region of Western Balkans. So in order for us to be able to achieve some of these objectives, we need to continue coordinating between ourselves, including even extending our networks, including additional relevant stakeholders, be as agile and mobilized as possible in order to yield the concrete results. For us, this network is also setting the solid grounds for continuing the regional activities that we in RCC pursue as part of the so-called common regional market vision that we are implementing, that has the highest political backing by our leaders, expressed recently at the Sofia Summit. So I'm stopping here just saying that on behalf of the Regional Cooperation Council, we will continue investing our efforts to promote, to advocate, and to work towards this more enabling, better environment for our girls and women in the region. And of course, the objective for us is clear: to see girls, boys, women thrive in STEM education and careers from now on at an even accelerated pace. So thank you very much, Sinisha. Thank you to all for your participation. Please take care, stay safe, and looking forward for us to taking the further steps on this journey forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maya. All the best.
It is a truth, universally acknowledged, that every man, and woman for that matter, with a resident address in the Western Balkans must be in need of a good air quality app. And this one in particular has been developed in the Western Balkans by a 19-year-old. Shall we meet her? The air quality is good. The app says the air is safe. Let's go. Hey Leila, making some new app?
As a matter of fact, yes, but you'll have to wait to hear more.
Very young, but already innovating, making apps, making a havoc in a man's world, aren't you? How come?
Well, it's an occupation born out of curiosity. When I was just 15, I had written my first line of code, and it just clicked with me. It challenged me. After that, I enrolled in many IT courses, joined IT Girls, and started applying on GeekFest and many different hackathons. I was even invited to do an internship in one big IT company. Oh, this tech world might be still predominantly male, but we girls are catching up, and I'm not the only one. And one more thing, networking is also important.
Yes, it surely is. Well, I can't wait to hear more from you and your fellow IT girls.
You can count on that.
Thank you very much. That will be it. I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.